Lady. Welcome to the Lubbock or Leave It podcast, a recruiting specific podcast here on RedRaidersports.com, where my co-host Ben Gullen and I talk all things Texas Tech football recruiting. But before we get into it, Ben, we want to thank our title sponsor, Carnley Properties. Clayton Carnley is somebody we know from the website for many years, but his team at Carnley Properties, they serve the greater Austin Metroplex. Anything you guys need in the real estate side, especially with the market doing what it's doing lately, you need somebody like Clayton and his team that you can trust. Give them a holler. We're going to include all their contact info, whether you're a subscriber or not, both on YouTube and here on the website whenever we post this. But big thanks to Clayton and Carnley Properties for sponsoring everything we do on the recruiting side at Red Raider Sports. So with that being said, Ben, we're back at it. Not a ton of recruiting, movement, I guess, if we'd say, but definitely kids back on campus. And what we're seeing is mostly the 2023 class. So these are guys we're still learning a lot about. But Ben, what could you tell us? I know you've posted a junior day of sorts updates, and we're going to continue to update that throughout the weekend at Red Raider Sports. But from a high level, what could you tell us about, what the coaches have going on this week?
Yeah, big junior day today. It's the last week of July, which means the dead period's over and the coaches can have recruits on campus. I believe, some of these other programs you look around are maybe doing some official visits. I think Tech is decided to not do that and mostly concentrate on these 2023s, along with a top 2022 target who's coming back for an unofficial, who we will discuss later. But overall, I think getting the relationship started, it's the first visit for a lot of these guys. They have a new offer was made today. And so, getting these guys on campus right before fall camp starts next week. And, then you're, full systems go at that point.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with no official visitors this weekend, when you can wait another month or so and come for a football home weekend. But, again, much like the last class, and we won't get off into that rabbit hole, I feel like they have some targets, at each position that they've gone after pretty hard. And, whether they've secured those commitments now or they're kids that they're still trying to work on. I don't see this wide net of 2022 guys that they would need to bring in this weekend. But yeah, more to your point, we've talked to a few of these guys, and I'm sure I'm going to butcher the name once again, but Samuel Almosigo out of Crandall. He's listed as an athlete. All we did was exchange messages, Ben, but he was in town today, changed his profile picture to him in a Texas Tech uniform. He's posting pictures. All the kids are updating the stories. We'll get to that. But again, it looked like, quite a few kids were on campus, including young Samuel here. 6'1", 205 pounds. Interestingly enough, he told me while we exchanged messages that the coaches were talking to him, about being an all-around athlete and about playing running back and wide receiver, which he does now at Crandall. And then his name tag today said linebacker. So I'll be interested to see, what that looks like. But again, a kid with 2 years of high school left and that already has that size, I think you could see him, easily graduating at 220, 230 at least. And so probably an intriguing running back / linebacker prospect there. And really that's, like I said off the top, that's the extent of our knowledge on these 2023 guys. I don't know about you, but we need to sit down and kind of map out what games we're going to see here in the Metroplex. Crandall could be one of them, and, we'll mix it in with all the other Tech commits and get that schedule going. But again, a young man I think they've gotten in on fairly early here, 7 offers. I would say Stanford, K-State, main competition there. But you've got Vanderbilt, you've got a couple other in-state programs. So I expect him to add more offers. Ben, I've probably talked to, most here about him and covered most everything else. What could you tell us about Anthony Evans? I think that was the offer that came out of the visit today.
Yeah, I believe a receiver offer. He's up to 11 total offers now. A lot of the regional schools, and then your Arkansas and, your Arizonas, your Houstons, so definitely competition that you want to get involved with. And then it's always funny to me. We talk to these recruits all the time, and you never know when Tech is going to start recruiting one of them. But after his offer, I hit up Anthony, and then, you scroll the way up and you see that you messaged him, several months ago before he was even on the radar. So that's always, interesting to me. But yeah, I mean, Anthony Evans, says 4.36 laser 40-yard dash, so a speedster, if you believe that. And I mean, yeah, just another good early target for the coaches to go after. 6 foot, 165 listed at by Rivals. I don't know how accurate or when those measurements are from, but you like to see these early offers. It's something we always talk about, the coaches getting out there and getting a head start on some of these guys.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, other offers from TCU, Iowa State, Houston, Arkansas. So definitely some regional competition, and we'll definitely cover that. Like I mentioned, we'll talk to Anthony, we'll talk to Samuel, we'll get more details on the visit today. I guess any other guys that you confirmed or that visited recently that you'd like to highlight, Ben?
Well, Kenigel Thomas, to me, is a DB from Del City, Oklahoma. Tech offered way long ago. I did an interview with him. I'm looking at his profile right now in June 2020, so over a year ago. Tech first offered, and at the time, he's so far away. He wasn't getting a lot of communication from the coaches because he couldn't. But now he wanted to see campus. He obviously made it in today, and he posted a picture with the jerseys. And so, Tech has had some good luck in Oklahoma this cycle, and looks like they want to continue that for the next cycle. And his other offers are Iowa State, Memphis, and Oklahoma State. So 4 offers so far, not a huge list, but 3 other solid programs that, again, you want to be in the mix for that type of talent.
Okay. And then I guess the last kid that I'd mentioned, and I think if you've listened to this podcast, week after week, we talked about him last time a little bit more in detail, but Austin Novosad, the quarterback offer, that's the lone 2023 offer, and really, the last, real quarterback offer in quite a while. You had Tyler Shuck, I think either right before or after that, you had the offer to Nick Eppers in the 2022 class. He committed to Florida. 2022's been, dead silent, and now we've seen a 2023 offer. And if you go to the story that we posted on Red Raider Sports, he talks a lot about how that was Coach Cumbie's first offer and this, that, and the other. But the young man out of Dripping Springs, 6'3", 180. He's got 7 different offers already. Baylor, Rice, SMU, UTSA, Vanderbilt, a lot of other colleges in contact. It wouldn't surprise me, again, as I mentioned, us getting into the fall camp, getting into the Texas high school football season, these kids will continue to progress, especially at the quarterback position, and, definitely get some more eyeballs. So interested to really get around the state, Ben. I know I mentioned Dallas, but with that being said, we're starting to cover these kids. We're starting to learn more about them. And I think now that we don't have, I think we're going to have some COVID restrictions, but, I was thinking back to last year at some of the wild stuff you and I had to do to cover a football game. And hopefully some of that, is like everything else. We take the good with the bad, but definitely eager to get back out there. I mean, can you remember what the kind of craziest thing we had to do last football season in terms of getting access?
Yeah, I mean, some stadiums were wilder than others. I think, to me, I'm thinking back to the Under Armour camp back in March, where we had to sit in the end zone and all the actions over there, and we're being blocked by goalposts and people standing around, and like you couldn't see anything. But yeah, I mean, some games we were able to walk the sidelines, some others we weren't. It made for an interesting, deal, and that's why I bought my fancy new camera, so that I can zoom in and see something.
There you go. Well, we need to go use our fancy cameras, is the moral of the story, and we will do that for you, the loyal Red Raider Sports listener. So Ben, the last young man we wanted to talk about is Major Everhart. We've talked about him quite a bit. Amarillo Tascosa athlete. I know you can tell us a little bit more details there, but you've confirmed that he will be back in town for an unofficial this weekend. And I know you've got some details on that. So I'm just going to let you handle that part and round out the podcast today.
Yeah, well, he was actually on campus today, but it was kind of a separate deal from the rest of the 2023s. I think he was the only 2022 in town, and so he kind of got his own separate tour. He got to meet with a few different people, I believe Kirby and President Skuvenek possibly. But yeah, I mean, I just think he's a top target for them. Notre Dame offered last week, and I expect him to visit there. I expect him to visit Penn State as well. I think Major was pretty close to a commitment to Tech at one point this summer. And then maybe, we talk about the news of the week, realignment. Could that have scared him off some? Possibly. But, overall, he's still going to remain a top target for them. And yeah, I mean, that's just kind of where things are. It's good that the coaches were able to get him back on campus today, in my opinion, because, you can't have enough of that and continuing to build that relationship.
Yeah, and I know it's easy to get onto campus, but it's easy for a kid in Dallas to go to SMU or TCU too. It's all about that continued communication and, really trying to do things different. I know you mentioned that this isn't going to be your standard visit, so definitely putting their best foot forward. I mean, I think the other major update for Major, sorry, that was not intentional, was that Notre Dame did extend the offer. That was one of the, again, subscribe to Red Raider Sports, been reported this weeks ago, that both Notre Dame and then the other school we can say now was UT, that is close and probably still talking to Major. He took the visit to Austin. So heavy competition for this young man, an absolute game changer when we talk speed. With Evans earlier, I mean, Major has that in spades, and you look at a guy like Tyler King and his speed, and then you add Everhart to that, and then you look at what you've already landed here in this class. I mentioned King, but then you look at running back. I mean, just speed, and I think they're getting very quality prospects. So quality over quantity is I guess the takeaway there, Ben.
And I have my future. I put in a future cast for Tech, several months ago in January. And I'm not changing that right now. Even though with the Notre Dame offer, I definitely could, change that in the future. But I just think with being so close to home, with having, really good friends on the team, such as LB Moore and Joseph Plunk, and the whole, name, image, likeness, all those possibilities. At the end of the day, I just think it makes a lot of sense, for him to want to go to Tech and for Tech to want him. And so, I mean, that's just all I would add on that. It's not a lock at all. Notre Dame is obviously, really tough competition. And it wouldn't, I know you mentioned Texas. It wouldn't surprise me if you started seeing some more SEC type programs also go after him. Nothing to report just yet, but it looks like his 3-star rating maybe is a little undervalued at the moment. When you hear some of these programs that are close on him.
Yeah, that's how it goes, and that's why I kept referring to getting back out there. I bet these kids are just so eager to play their senior season. The way I see it, Ben, is it's always a good sign when they're back on campus. But to wrap this up, we owe Carnley Properties a thank you. We'll post their info, but we also owe the people a couple of things, Ben, and I think we should do it before the season starts. The listeners need an episode on conference realignment and maybe our thoughts on how that affects recruiting. We both agreed the podcast would last entirely too long if we brought that up today. I think it needs its own episode. And then I also think we haven't really dipped our toes into NIL. And I think now that it's been a real reality for 2 or 3 weeks, we can analyze what deals, have we seen from Texas Tech players? What have we seen around college football? I think those two would be some very interesting topics of conversation, here over the next week. And that's what we'll do here on the Lubbock or Leave It podcast. But Ben, anything to add before we wrap it up today?
No, I mean, fall camp starts next Friday. So, I mean, that's always exciting. I'm just, ready to see some games. It's been a long off season.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. Well, for Ben Golan, I'm Matt Clare. Thanks for listening to the Lubbock or Leave It podcast presented by Carnley Properties on Red Raider Sports. Have a good one.